See if this helps.
I know we are learning this evening the Teichen of the Sikha of the Dvar Malchus, of the Sikha of Parsha Shabbos, Parsha Nachamu, Toshin Nun Aleph, and the learning is taking place in the beit Knesset, שמתקיימים, Chabad Tsfat, here at Kodesh, and this evening is ליום שישי, יום חמישי, בלילה ליוד בייס מנחם אור, תשע"ז. So as we've taken the custom the last few weeks that we attempt to sum up the whole in just in a few words for the sake of those who maybe come in only at the beginning and don't have time to reach the end. The whole Sikha is based around the fact that the kefil, the doubling up of the nechama in the Haftarah of Shabbat Parsha V'Eschonah, Nachamu Ami, but that kefil, even though it's only a double in the actual usage of the words, the emes indicates Inyan Shal Bli Gvul, and beyond Hagbara altogether. And that's indicatory of the Iskalas that will be taken Miyad Begul Amitis Vashrema. The Iskalas will be Iskalas Elokus Lamata Be'evan Shal Bli Gvul Mamish, and that will be Koilo in itself, all the milas, Afilo milas, all the advantages and the supremacies of all the madrigas that will precede that, Afila, if they were madrigas kavoyas, or they will be not comparable to the immense gilu of Bli Gvul Ha'amiti, which will occur in the Gula Shlema. And we're going to show during our learning this evening that is all hinted at in the doubling and the kefil of the two words Nachamu, and how they are linked essentially with the Parsha of Eschonah. And we're going to find a similar theme, both when we get to Moshe Rabbeinu himself and when we get to the Aseret Adibrais, which occur for the second time in Parsha Eschonah. So here we go. So the Rebbe says, Yadua she'Haftarah keshura leParshat HaShavua. We have a cloud that every Haftarah, it's brought down in the Torah and in the Abu Drom, who was a Talmud of the Torah, by the way, and other great Sforim, that every Haftarah has to be Me'ein HaParsha. It has to have a similarity and a essential content that similarizes and links it with the Parshat HaShavua. However, there are certain Haftarahs that they are not exactly in that pattern, and they follow the Ma'urais, what we might call the historical event that occurred at that particular time of the year that we read this particular parsha, and therefore they, as it were, take a leading hand, and they determine what will be the haftarahs, or the haftarah of that particular parsha. Therefore we find that from first Shabbat of the Bein HaMetzorim, then the Haftarahs become what we call the Gimel de Poronusa, the three Haftarahs of not such good, you know, how to call it, punishment. The three rebuking, as we might call it, Haftarahs, and then beginning with Shabbos Nachamu and until Rosh Hashanah, there's altogether 7 Parshas which are read from now until Rosh Hashanah, and the Haftarahs are all what we call the Haftarahs of comforting and of Nechama, and they're called the Shiva de Nechemta. In other words, there's 3 which have to do with rebukage and punishment, and then there are 7 of comforting. And the first one is Nachamu. But the fact that that's the first and leads into this whole 7 weeks of what we call Nechemta, well, that would indicate that there's some special generosity and power in Nachamu, which makes it like the leading and beginning, and as it were, kernel. It contains in itself all the other messages of the other parsha. So the Rebbe said that's a little bit unusual in view of the cloud that we mentioned, that every parsha has to, every haftarah also has to have a shaykhah with the parsha. So the point being made here is that despite the fact that these haftarahs all the way through now till Rosh Hashanah have to do with the me'uros, the events, and the inner content connected with those events, not so much directly with the parsha, nonetheless we must say that they also have a kesher with the parsha. And there's a famous statement from the Shloah Kodesh. But the Shloah Kodesh says that every inyan which is connected in some way with the weekly parsha has a direct connection to that parsha. And so even though, and how much more so the haftarahs, that even though they may be read mitzvah another factor, they're not directly concerned with the parsha, we must say nonetheless that they have a deep connection with the parsha. So that's what he says now, that even though we read these haftarahs, what they're connected with the mu'urei shekora bo'isas man, nonetheless, yesh lehem kesher gam im parsha. We have to say that these haftarahs also have a kesher with the parsha, given shekol mu'ura kosher the Parshas Hashavua, since everything that happens anyway is connected with the Parshas Hashavua. So since these haftarahs are built on things which happen, then they must be connected some way with the parsha. V'lochein gam haftarah shel Shabbat Nachamu ami hanikreis nechama le'achar tkufas hachuva, after the mourning for the whole terrible tkufa of the churban the bayis b'shnei abati migdash, the bayis rishon and bayis sheni. He said, Gami kashura leParshas Hashavua ve'es chana. We have to say that nonetheless, despite the fact that the tzika is connected with the Nechama on the Korban, nonetheless it has a shaykhus to Parsha ve'es chana. So he said, V'akesher hu posher. He said the connection is, if we look at it carefully, he said then we'll find the connection to be basically a simple one. He said, Haftarah medaberes oides hanechama hakafula. He said, as one known, and it's brought down in the Yalkut Shemoinia, brought down in Medrash Chazal, that we find that the punishments that occurred and led to the base destruction of the base of Mikdash were what we call double punishments. We find that hinted in the Eichor in several places, where we find certain words which indicate the woe and the mourning on the churban, we find them doubled up. So it said that just like the punishment or the what you might call the retribution was double, so therefore the Nechama is also double, and therefore we say Nachamu, Nachamu, Amen. And there are many Medrash Chazal connected with that, and one or two of them are going to be mentioned as we go along. So he said, yeah, the Haftarah talks about a Nechama double, a Nechama Kafula. He said, Hein al Beis HaMikdash HaRishain, v'Hein al Beis HaMikdash Sheni. There's another Maimon Chazal in the Medrash which says that the two Nechomas are one connected by his Rishon, one connected by his Sheni. So he says, Hein al Beis HaMikdash Rishon v'Hein al Beis Sheni, Nachamu, Nachamu, Shetei Binyan Beis HaMikdash HaShlishi. And that's the Nechama, ultimately, which will bring the Nechama for both of the Batei HaMikdash. However, if we think about it carefully, we can ask a simple question: that what do I need to give a Nechama for both of the Batei Mikdash? Kilo, a special Nechama for each one. Nachamu, Nachamu. L'choyre, the Beis HaMikdash HaShlishi, it's going to be so incomparably great, and the Nechama which will surround that is going to be so immense that it will cover all the it will, as it will be coil, it will take into itself all of the things that have been before. So, l'choyre, if I'm going to get the Beis HaMikdash HaShlishi, I will maybe have a Nechama both for the Beis Rishon and for the Beis Sheni. Why do I need to say that the Beis HaMikdash HaShlishi is going to be a Nechama both for Beis Rishon and for Beis Sheni? Then that tends to indicate that Beis Rishon and Beis Sheni are each of them indicatory of a tremendous supremacy that the other one didn't have. And so therefore, it's not enough just to give a Nechama Claudius. No, there has to be a Nechama which will include within itself both of those mitres. And in order to do that, in order to comfort the Jewish people so much that will, as it were, fill entirely the necessary Nechama for both of these great levels, then we have to say that the Beis HaMikdash HaShlishi is going to be incomparably so great that it will, as it were, cover everything, but at the same time, it will cover everything in a specific way. And in order to do that, you've got to be a very great cloud. Because you can have a cloud which just is cloud, and that fixes everything. But you can have an even higher cloud, but it's so great that it's able to relate also to details. It's at its great all-extensive power. So that's going to be the Beis HaMikdash HaShlishi. So in came, what's the connection with the Parsha? Well, he said, "V'gam Parsha midaberes oides b'koshas Moshe Rabbeinu lehikonis la'oret." The prayer of Moshe Rabbeinu was that he said to the Abish to Ebrano ve'eres ha'oretz. He wanted to go into Eretz Yisrael, ve'eschanan el Hashem. Bakosha she'ilu hoyza miskayemes oyu b'nei Yisrael nitnosim la'oretz yachad im Moshe. Had that been the case, had Moshe literally won his case, and his Bakosha, despite the gezerah that had been made on him not to go in, if he had won his prayer, then he would have taken it into the Beis HaMikdash. So it's brought down in certain Medrashim and it's mashma in the Tanchuma, and also in the Pirkei, the Rebbe Eliezer, that had Moshe taken them in to Eretz Yisrael, then there would have been, as it were, the revelation of what we're looking for in the Gula Shlema. There would have been a level achieved of what we're going to see, God willing, in the Gula Shlema. There would have been built a Beis HaMikdash of the Madrega, the Beis HaMikdash Shlishi. Would have been an everlasting kesher between the Jewish people and the Beis HaMikdash and Eretz Yisrael. That's what would have been had Moshe Rabbeinu got his way. Yachad im Moshe. There would have been such a revelation similar to the Gula Shlema v'anitzchiyat v'gam Beis HaMikdash shoya nitzchi. There wouldn't have been any possible destruction, because it's explained in those medrashim what we just mentioned, that Maaseh Yodeinu Shel Moshe Rabbeinu are also nitzchiyim. Anything that Moshe Rabbeinu literally touched or had a connection with. Some sort of, no? What is that? Anything that... that Moshe Rabbeinu had a shaykhs with is anyway a nitzchi of the Beis HaMikdash HaShlishi would have been a nitzchi, and everything would have been in a oven of the Jewish people and the Beis HaMikdash and Eretz HaKodesh. So that was the Rebbe, that what would have happened had Moshe Rabbeinu literally won his prayer. Kiven shemaisa yodei Moshe nitzchiyim. V'zehu hakesher haposhut bein haparsha lahaftarah. Says the Rebbe, that's the simple connection of the parsha with the haftarah, that we're talking in the haftarah about the Nechama that's going to be, which is the Gila, the Beis HaMikdash HaShlishi, and the parsha talks about what would have been had Moshe Rabbeinu won his prayer, but that would have been what we're talking about in the haftarah. So that's the kesher. However, the Rebbe doesn't actually go for that 100%. Why? Because the Rebbe said that a connection of that sort is ilu. It would have been this, it would have been that. Had Moshe Rabbeinu won his prayer, and had that happened, then we would have had, something of that nature. But it would appear that the connection that the Shloach Kodesh talks about between a haftarah and its parsha is a more etzemdika one, which would tend to indicate that the etzem announcement on the part of Yeshaya that Nachamu Ami, or that etzem Nechoma, that would seem to be somehow connected with Parsha V'Eschonim in a direct way, the way Parsha V'Eschonim is. Not what would have been had Moshe Rabbeinu won, but that makes it like an indirect connection. And that's what he says now. Ulam HaKesher ein a boro dayo. He said such a kesher of that nature is not clear enough in its own right. Shekein b'Parsha V'Eschonim mudgeshes גם העובדה שבספר של דבר לא ינגנס מוישה רבנו. What's his name, Yehuda? Leave him alone, cut the phone off. It's just being involved, it's taken away from you, learning it from her. Aber he says, the Rebbe, sof kosof, the Parsha tells us that Moshe Rabbeinu didn't go into Eretz. So to say that the whole connection with the haftarah is with something that didn't really happen anyway, well, that's a little bit unreal. And who took the people in, the Jewish people in, was the Yeshua Hiknesason. Yeshua, he took the in the Eretz Zabulochin, Kanisazu, Loihoyasu Mishlema. And therefore, since it was through Yeshua, Mavui and the Gemara, that Yeshua is a lower Madriga than Moshe Rabbeinu, and therefore the entry was, albeit a successful entry, but it wasn't perfect. How to say mushlema? It wasn't complete from all sides. I mean, there's a sense the whole conquest of Yeshua and the whole on Eretz Yisrael came through Ainam, led by Yeshua, and therefore ultimately it wasn't an everlasting, the whole, and therefore the Beis Hamikdash was eventually destroyed. And we have two Bate Mikdash, Beis Rishon, Beis Sheni. Ve'ilu ba'avtera mesuba oedus anachoma be'kiflayim be'binyan Beis Hamikdash nitri. Nachmu, he's talking about when Moshiach is going to come. And when the Beis Hamikdash Ashlishi, well, that's going to be a Beis Hamikdash nitri. Yeah, ugeula nitris shedivatavatol lechalutin as a golas v'achuva. Since that's the case, there doesn't seem to be a open connection between the Haftarah and the Parsha. He said, a Parsha, madgishu ulai es hatzera benachoma, achena kishura la Haftarah atzma. It would seem that from the Parsha we gain the impression that Moshe Rabbeinu didn't go over. Since he didn't go over, only Yeshua did. So that stresses that we need a Geula, because later there's going to be anyway a Churban, as is brought in many Maimorei Chazal. It was already known, it was already revealed from heaven at certain places that the Beis Hamikdash was going to be destroyed anyway. So in Cain, they already knew, or was already sensed in certain madrigas that the Beis Hamikdash was anyway going to be destroyed. So that indicates to us that we need to have an Achoma. We'll need to have ultimately an Achoma. But it doesn't seem to be connected with the Haftarah itself, which is talking about the actual Achoma, which will occur after and at a time of unbelievably greater revelation than that which is mentioned in the Parsha. So if so, we need to understand what is the connection between the Parsha and Nachamu in the very essence. What is the connection? So he said, B'kdei lahovin zois, in order to appreciate that, oleinu lasim lev lekesher hamiyuchad shel haftarah legeula. He said we have to, first of all, appreciate the obvious, what is very obvious, the special connection of the Haftarah to the Inner Geula. And he says, Nachamu Ami Karshula Geula Loya Mitzat Nechomer Ageula Nachamu. Ela she'etzem ha'kafelus, and he called the etzem doubling up Shebedova Nachamu Karshula Geula. Oh, so the Rebbe says that it's mashma, it's an unusual thing in Beklal, in Nebuahs, and Afilu in the Lashon of the Torah itself, to double up words, particularly words of that sort of nature. Nachamu is like a, how they call it, imperative or a bakosha from Hashem, telling the Nevi'im to give over to the Yidden Nachama. So why does it need to be doubled? If they would have just said Nachamu, it would also be good. What is the doubling? So he said, Kafisha Medrash Matayeh, Chamisha Oisias, Shanikfalu Kushuris Lageula. So here there's quite a long quote from the Medrash, which says that in certain places where we find oisias kafulis, double oisias, they all indicate geula. For example, it's written by Avraham Avinu, Lech lecho me'artzecho. You should leave your country. Yeah, so Lech lecho is two kofs, two lamets and two kofs. So the Medrash says that kefil is interpreted as the Gula. And that's what happened, that Avraham Avinu got redeemed from Ur Kasdima, from all the Goysha background that he'd had, and he went over to Eretz Yisrael, which is a Geula. And the same, we find by, for example, to give another example, when the Yidden left Mitzrayim, he's going to bring it in a minute, it's written that they had Yosef a Tzaddik left a Kabbalah with the Yidden, that whoever would say Pokadati to them, in the name of Hashem, I have visited you and remembered, I've come to, as it were, visit you on my promise. So that's 2 pages, Pokadati, that's an indication of the inner Geula from Mitzrayim. And also the Yosid Lovei, it's written that the Tzaddik, it's written a pasuk Yitzemach Tzaddik, but that's referring to Moshiach, Yitzmach, or Mimeno Tzomeach HaGeula, also in Yeshaya. However, we see that the Tzaddik is going to be the simon, the doubling up of the Tzaddik is going to be a simon of the Geula Shlema. So wherever we have these doubled letters, that indicates an Inshal Geula. So therefore he said, Lech lecho, for example, Shekosher legulas megulosai. Avraham Avinu, he got out of Gulosai mecharon el Eretz Yisrael. That Avraham Avinu was nigal from the goddess of Choron, what that's brought down. Rashi also hints at it that Choron indicates the Hepech of Kedusha, or that's the union from Chanayin Af, Shel Olam. Even though the whole first chapter in the unbelievable Avodah of Avraham Avinu actually took part in the theater of that whole area, but nonetheless, when he was told to go to Eretz Yisrael, well, that's a Geula for Avraham Avinu. And so that's hinted at in the 2 words, Lech lecho. Both of those have double, they have the same letters, and those letters are double. So on that basis, the Medrash and the Pirkei, the Rabbi Eliezer, they tell us that there's, wherever you got certain letters that are double, in a given posse, that represents the Geula. I said, Divrei Moshe lebnei Yisrael. Another example is that Moshe Rabbeinu said to the Yidden in Mitzrayim, prior to the Geula, he said to them, Pokadati eskem. He said, the Eibusher has told him to tell them that he's coming to visit and remember his promises to the Jewish people. Well, that's the word Pokadati. That was a Kabbalah that they had from Yosef Tzaddik, that whoever would use such an expression, well, that's a simon that he's the Goyal Amiti. So we see him, Cain, that the 2 pays, the 2 doubled letters, they indicate the Indian Geula. And then we mentioned that it's also the same with the Indian Moshiach, he's called Tzemach Shmoi, and it's written Tzemach Yitzmach in the passage there in Yeshaya, are 2 tzaddis, one after the other, in 2 words. What they indicate from the ultimate Geula, which is going to be taken out in the Beis Hamikdash Shlishi. So in King we see that certain letters which are doubled indicate the union of Geula. Va'oid, so there's other examples, but in kind of one Lahari, all examples. He said, Gama posik kiflaim letushia, but there's a posik in Iyai which said, Yaged lecho talum ish chokma kiflaim letushia, what that's referring to Matan Torah, and especially to the Luchas Hashniyos, or they're called kiflayim tushia. What the word tushia, there's quite an inquiry there in the Mephosheh Anak. What does it mean, tushia? So one of the simple titles is that the word tushia means strength or giving a power to go further. So therefore the Torah is going to give you kiflayim tushia, and befrat the Luchas Shniyos, or they included in themselves all sorts of inyonim which weren't there in the Luchas Rishayim. And therefore they're called kiflayim tushia, reimes al kach, al kach, shekeifu kosher l'geula u'leyeshua. And he said at his telephones, I once made an avur when I was way back when I remember there was somebody came down, so it doesn't matter who he was, and he bought with him a cellular phone. That was like an unbelievable chiddush said in the eyes. It's not all that many years ago. And I said that you should realize that crazy thing in his hand, that is gradually going to conquer the whole of humanity. That's what has happened. Everybody's completely in the hands. You see. However, the Rebbe says that the word tushia, if we look it up in the dictionaries, the word tushia can also mean a gaining of power to get out of where you are and to be nigal from your present situation. Therefore, kiflayim tushia indicates the whole inyan of geula. So wherever you have a kiflayim, where you have a doubleness, then you're hinting at geula. Yeah, that's the inner kiflayim. L'tushia reimes al kach shekeifu kosher l'geula u'leyeshua. Even from doubling, and particularly doubling of certain letters, what ain't kind of much. There's a minor from the Reb Marash, where the Reb Marash is mavayeh. What is the mile of these particular oisias that we find hint at the geula, like kof and pei and tadi and so on? He talks about what is the actual special mile in that order. Here we're not going into that, but we're just saying that the whole concept of a doubling up, a doubling indicates the idea of tushia. Tushia can mean the concept of geula. So there he says, Mahu HaKesher, we need to understand what is the meaning of a doubling up, and a doubleness, what has it got to do with the inyan of geula? And how does that indicate in these particular psukim that we mentioned, particularly the tzaddik? Well, that's got to do with the geula shleima. So he said, keifo, a doubleness, the word keifo means a doubling up. Moira al kach, we shouldn't be mistaken to think that the concept of a keifo indicates only double or three times. In certain places where we are interested in limiting the pshat of the pasuk, then the word keifo can indicate only double. However, the actual concept of keifo is revealed in other places in Torah, which we're going to mention now, that it can include the whole concept of ein sof, an ein hakbola cloud. Elagam lekefilois ein sofi. It can indicate a doubling and a multiplication that has no end. Sharei ein kan hakbola. Yeah, but Kamala Hakfil. There's no limitation how much to limit the doubling. For example, I'll give you a couple of examples of God. We find the Gemara Bava Metzia says it's written where the Torah doubles up a verb. It's written Azoiv Tazoiv Imo. You should verily help him. You know, if you see somebody with his behemoth, you have to help him. So the Gemara says in Bava Metzia, Azoiv Tazoiv Imoi Afilu Meya Pomim. Afilu 100 times. And also in Parshas it's written Posea Tiftach את ידך לאחיך העוני, לענייך האוהב. And the Gemara says, "Poseach tiftach afilo mea pi omer." So we see from a kefil we can get to meah. And when we say we get to meah, does that then mean that if you say you help somebody with his behemoth, or you helped 100 people with their behemoths 100 times, and then you come to the next time you meet a guy who needs help, you'd say, "I'm sorry, I've already done 100. That's it. I've done my obligation. I'm not obliged to help anymore." Would you be able to say that? No. In other words, the word mayo is only how do you call it, like a hagzoma on the part of what do you call it, an exaggeration on the part of our sages, but it really means bligo. And the example that the Rebbe brings is that the Gemara says in Menachos that a mensch is required to make 100 brachos every day. And how do we know that? Because it's written, "V'yato Yisrael." And now Yisrael, "Mo Hashem Elokecha shoyel mimach." It's in next week's Parshas, by the way. "Ma Hashem Elokecha shoyel mimach." What does Hashem ask of you? Yeah. And so the Gemara says, "Al tikra ma elameya." You shouldn't read ma elameya. So if he says that Hashem is asking of you meya, so 100 what? So the Gemara had a Kabbalah that's referring to meya bracha. So we see that how do we get to that? We put aleph inside ma, and ma is bittul. Ma indicates the concept of self-nullification. So into that comes the aleph, and what is the aleph? The aleph is indicatory of Elu Veshal Olam, the Eibishter, how he is Be'atzmusay. Well, that comes down into the ma, and it becomes in a way of Al Tikrei, but that's a Kabbalah from Al Seder, but that's the L'mayla when you say this Toshul Skankin. That's also a very high madrigal. And that comes down in the form of aleph into the ma, and you get mayo. Yeah. So the point is that how do we get mayo? First we have to have bittul, and then you have to have a hamshacha, mi'alu v'shal shaloyim. So wherever it's written mayo piyomim, it doesn't mean just 100. It means that you put down an aleph, and you've made mayo, yeah, which means that you've got a concept of bligo. And therefore, if you met up legal people and you're supposed to help, you have to help them. So the apilo mea piomim is only a form of an exaggerated limitation. But it doesn't really mean that. It means legal. Abamela said the Rebbe, v'zeu kosher kamuvan gam legula midas basleim. And that's connected to the Gula. So that doubling of those letters in certain words, well, that indicates this whole concept of double. And double indicates Ainin she'ein lazeh sof ve'ein lazeh gvul. She'gula zu tia nitzchiyas v'tamidiyas v'gam ba'beis hamidash she'yibona az yeh nitzchi v'tamidi. It'll be nitzchi and there won't be any limitation. Lo b'zman v'lo b'mokim, because it will all come down on the Shamayim. V'zo ha'kesher shall call kefil l'gula. That's the kesher, anything which is double, with the infant gula. And therefore the Midrash says that where you got certain letters, and those letters are double, they indicate the infant gula, because every kefil really hints at the infant bligul. Therefore we'll understand the greatness of the doubling of the word nacham. However, says the Rebbe, there's a great speciality in the doubling of the word nachmu compared to those other words that we mentioned. And he said, Keshura geula, af yoisa milech lecho omni pokadati ukadema. Why? Shekein, tzemed hamilim pokadati, einam oisa milim badiuk. the Rebbe said the getting together of these words is like two basic roots, but they're not really the same word. Pokoid and pokadati are two different grammatical expressions. Yeah, and he said, "V'gam lamilim lech lecho." Yeah, the two words lech lecho. Yesh lekol mila nikud acher. Lech is one thing, and lecho is another. That's another nikud. Yeah, lech lecho. Umashmur is acheret, and that leads to a different meaning also. He said, "Ve'ilo nachamo nachamo." Yeah, he said the two words nachamo nachamo. Hinam oisem milim v'oisem v'mashmoyes. They are the same word and the same meaning. But that means that that's the same meaning, double mamid. In the other, the Rebbe points out that even in Haim Madrega, you can have certain reference to, as it were, certain protistic in Yonah. For example, we find in Eretz Makifim, we find certain Makifim that because of, nonetheless, they have a little shaykhs to the Pnimi. And then we have a bigger market which is more mudal. So therefore there can be certain things which are legal, but they have a certain relationship to detail as well. So he said that's the oisias of the words like leslecho, pokoid, pokadati, that they indicate like reference a different level. But if I say that everything's on the same level, and it nonetheless indicates the inner, the bligul, then it must be something which says bligul amiti. And therefore, nachamu nachamil, but that's indicating a tremendously high madrega in the gila of the Ein Sof, which is going to be in the Guru Slam. So therefore he says, Kalima, kasher ha-kefal ein ha-shova lechalutin, when the kefal is not equal in the fullest sense, moira hadover al drochim shoines begula. Well, that indicates different sort of ways and different things that are going to happen in the Geula. Like we find it's not the same, the Geula from Mitzrayim as the Geula that Avram Avinu had. It's not the same, the Geula at the time of the Chashmonim, compared to Geulas Purim, different level. Drochim should call others Yesh Maila Shein Bashniya. A mile in one that's not there in the other. Im Kain Ein Kam Bli Gul Amiti Umokla. Im Kain, it's not a absolute and altogether self-enveloping Bli Gul. Ve'ilu Kashera Kafeila Si Shova. However, when the doubling is a equal doubling, Nachamu, Moira Hadova Al Bli Gul Mukhlad. It indicates a union of absolute legal. So there was the Rebbe ניתן לקשר זייס עם הנאב במדרש שיש נחמו עמי אומר הקדוש ברוך הוא בעצמוי שהוא הבלי גבול האמיתי. So what's written there in the Medrash, Pillar de Gezach, it's a Yalvich Moiner, I think it's also brought in the Tanchum, but I think it's a Yalvich Moiner. That's written that the Eibusha said to the Nevi'im, go and comfort my people. So the Nevi'im come along and they start saying Nachamu Ami, and the Yidden answer them, and the Yidden say, we've had enough from you guys, you guys have been telling us all sorts of negative things as well. So now you're telling us, we're not able to be Makabudas. Follow? So the Nevi'im went back to Hashem, and they said, the Nechoma it's not being mitkabel and the Kli HaMakabel. So they said, there's no Eiter, I'll have to go myself and be Menachem. And you guys will come along with me, and all together we'll be Menachem, the Jewish people. He said that only me, myself, I'll be able to give the koyach to reach the emissary comfort of the Jewish people. And you hear what that says. that ein economy to really, comfort the Jewish people after everything that's been, you're going to have to come directly from him. That's nachamu. That is atzmisman. Because it's believe, shinoyet. That's I am as a cave. Yeshua believe hamiti. ניתן לשאול, it's possible to ask, מכיוון שהנחמה הכפולה של הקדוש ברוך הוא על שני בתי המקדש שנחרבו הוא על ידי בניין בית המקדש השלישי ולא ינחמו נחמה בדברים וקדמה, מה זה משנה אם הנחמה היא על ידי על חורבן אחד או בית המקדש שנחרב פעמיים. Avamira said the Rebbe, what does it really matter if, ultimately speaking, the Emerson Nechama is going to be in the actual building of the Beis HaMikdash. So once the Beis HaMikdash has been built, then all the Nechamas are going to be there. As in Cain, what does it really matter that the Nevi'im should give over a Nechama, that will be so high that it will give us the Nechama on both the Bate Mikdash, you follow? What does it really matter, the difference of that, or the same Beis HaMikdash twice, or the two different Bate Mikdash? The third Beis HaMikdash is going to be built, and that's the Nechama. As he came, what do we need to mention? This whole idea of Nachum and Nachum, both on the both Bate Mikdash. He said, Ela shel kol Beis HaMikdash hoya meyafyen shoina, he said each of the Bate HaMikdash indicated a difference and a special advantage, one of the other. He said, Beis HaMikdash HaRishon, Itztayim Begilei Oya Eloki Gavoya Melmaila, what we call considers Melmaila Lamata. Shlomo HaMelech built the Beis HaMikdash of a Be'ika, it was a Gila Elokuz, Melmaila Lamata. They worked to build the Beis HaMikdash, but nonetheless, the Ika was, how's it written in the prayer of Shlomo HaMelech, he said, Kol Alai V'yad Hashem Hiskil, that everything was from the Eibishter, and he guided me literally on every part. That's the Mila, the Bais Rishon, that everything came Mil Mila. It was Gila Lakuz Mil Mila. So he says, Ha'orein Imaluves Abrias, Hoyu Rakba Bais Rishon. It's well known that the Gemara Masechta Yuma tells us that in the Bais Sheni there was lacking several things that were there in Bais Rishon. Amongst them is the Oren with the Luches, and other things which also weren't there. He said, Oren Simal is Gila Ashchina B'Midas. The Oren was a very key factor that indicated the whole Gila Ashchina. Therefore the Gemara says in Masechta Yuma that it was lacking in Bais Sheni, the Emerson Gila Ashchina, due to the fact that the Oren wasn't there. So he said, Im Kain, what is the Mila of the Bais Sheni? So he said, Bais Sheni, the Umas days, it's Stein Davki B'Hakadusha, Nechazov and Nitfasov, Yesabo Elam. However, we see that there was a much greater hold in the world, in the, how do you call it, in Bais Sheni. Who exik Maimed Misparav Yota Shoshonim. It's one on, but the second Beis HaMikdash was 420 years, and the first one was only 410 years. And secondly, it was a bigger building. It had more, definitely been in Hurdas after Hurdas, where he built the Bais Sheni. It was bigger. He said, "Who tofa sheta godel yesa bahara Bais." It simply was bigger in area than Bais Rishon. So we see that there's something there that indicates the Mila of the Tachton Dafki. the Oile Bobo and the people who came back, they were the ones that built them, and they stood up the Beis HaMikdash after, in the form of Bali Tshuva Kamavun. They become Mekaymas, and they made something very lasting, very powerful, but nonetheless, ultimately, there was a churban. So we see that we got the Maila of something which comes only Mil Maila, and then we have the Maila of something which comes Be'ika Mil Mata. So we've got like Mil Maila Lamata, Mil Mata La Maila, in the two Bati Midrash. He said, Beis HaMikdash Ashlishi, you stay a Mailas Yachdo, that in the Beis HaMikdash Ashlishi, there'll be both of these Mailas together. Ein shel habayis rishon ve'ein shel hasheni. Ulam lo ba'ofen hamayla. Ulam lo ba'ofen hamaylas oyer eloki gavoya or achiza chazocha ba'olam. Ela shneihem yachad. In other words, it won't be like as if it's indicating or emphasizing the Maila of each one of them in some way. It won't have like the Maila by Sheni or by Rishon, but it'll have in a way that it's koilo both of them together. But that's indicatory of a tremendous, all-powerful, and so powerful that is, like I mentioned before, it's able to sort of refer also to the details and point out what were the Mailas, and yet it says I am incomparably greater than both of them, but nonetheless I'm sort of including myself them also. You can have a Kloli which just generalizes but doesn't generalize, specificize, but that's indicative of a much higher level. That's what the Rebbe says in the Sikha. V'zui ha'mayla miyuchedes shebebirhus nachamu nachamu ami shebachtereh. That is the Maila of Nachamu. Nachamu, it's a bleak wool, which is koil all the Madrigas. It's like the Keifo, but it's a Keifo Shabbat. It's an indicatory of a Seiva and an all-enveloping power, which is koil in itself all the time. That's what it's going to be with the Gula Shlema, Tegum Yad Mamish. And I'm sorry, but we'll have to pause there. I just, after the fast and everything, I'm just running for fuel. But I think we get the idea. So that when Mashiach comes, and when we'll be holding by the Beis HaMikdash Ashlishi, it's going to be our oil also. Bligol Hamid, Emerson Bligol. And not just Bligol in the way that it's generalized. It's going to be Emerson. Therefore, it will be able to be a comfort for everyone. So the Rebbe finds that in Parshas Veschanan also. But I'm sorry, I just can't go into that right now. He finds that in Parshas Veschanan. I don't quite know, it could be the whole thing with this.
Brother Gafni, you want more?
No, it's fine.
The show goes on.
I don't know if it keeps up like this. We're rocking it. border.
Not that far. Beyond Dalton. Beyond Dalton, about 15 minutes from Dalton.
Dalton, yeah.
Near.
Yeah.
It's long.
Well, it's not far.
Camera still on?
No,
It
but
was
it's
15
wide.
minutes from Dalton.
Oh,
Then
And you
from
make
the
side,
Dalton
side.
Mountain,
yeah, same drive.
it's heading towards the,
We went. On 17th of Thomas, we went. On the fast day, we went to Yeshiava. What is this number? That man over there? I know this is shit. What's that man's name? Ellie. Chaim, come. Chaim. This way we get more of Rav Gafni to ourselves. This way we get more of you to ourselves.
Me.
Nice to meet you, Brent. What?
Me.
What do you? Okay. You saw what I said to them? The great Exodus. Nobody listened. We're standing here live, ready to go. They didn't want us to. What can we do?
יש שם שתי אנשים מחכים על זה.
Oh, it is. It's saved for Shabbos, of course, right? It's a Shabbos salad too.
No,
Finish it. One more time. Finish it. Finish it.
טוב, לחיים, לחיים. פגישה, חיים.
חיים לא. Do you got?
Chaim?
Yeah, why not?
Okay, I thought I gave you. I thought I gave you.
What do you think, man?
טוב,
Thank you.
Pleasure.
חיים. חיים גלילי.
I'm just in a slight hurry, but tomorrow morning I'm going out of town.
Oh,
I have a bris by a great grandchild. Say my son Menachem, who lives here in the old city. He has a stepson, and that son had a son. Yeah, and the bris is tomorrow morning. So it's not a blood great grandchild, but it's to all intents and purposes. So I've got the bris tomorrow.
On
So I've got to
Shabbos?
get organized.
On Shabbos? Bris on Shabbos?
Machar.
Erev Shabbos.
Oh,
יש גם הכרזת הבית.
so today Yudal of Menachem was the yahrzeit of Reb Hillel Parshas. So Reb Hillel Parshas was a very rare individual from
גדול.
country.
He's married.
Yeah.
I have
Brilliant. He's very brilliant.
No, he says, Reb Hillel, ben Goy said, Reb Hillel.
Reb Hillel was a great man. That's, so we find that Reb Hillel indicates like it's written in a Yom Yom, that Mitzad Echad, from one side, the Torah indicates to us just how small man is, and just how insignificant and what we might call low man is. However, on the other side, the Torah indicates just how high he can elevate himself. So people who are, let's say, for example, Rabbeim, or them are great neshamas, and so they come into the world not to serve Hashem in the ordinary way, but they come in to guide the Jewish people and to show them the way. However, the majority of people come into the world to serve Hashem and to try and perfect themselves, and are visited with less or more haflacha in that regard. However, we find by Reb Hillel that he reached a tremendous level, even though he wasn't a rabbinic figure by birth, that he reached through his Avodah a level where he was pretty close to reaching rabbinic status. Therefore, there's an old saying that they give over in the name of the Tzemach Tzedek. The Tzemach Tzedek said that he had 2.5 Chassidim. 2.5 Chassidim. So I don't remember who the other two were, but they say the half Chassid, he was referring to Reb Hillel. Why? Because Reb Hillel was only half a Rebbe. He was half a Rebbe and half a Chassid. So by calling him half a Chassid, that Tzemach Tzedek meant to indicate he is unbelievable great. In other words, he reached a level where he's one of the few. Well, there's only two of them, Chassidim in all the generations, who actually wrote and gave over Chassidus. They actually gave over their own Jewish Chassidus, to the point that the Rebbe even encouraged that people look into these and learn them as indicative of a tremendously elevated status. So we see that that's the principle of the Yom Yom, it's just how high a man can elevate himself. And to the point that that's also brought down in the famous story that's brought in the Sichas of the Friedricher Rebbe, that there was a big discussion amongst the Hasidim and the Rebbe and the Hasidim as to what was the I forgot from I looked up for a second I forgot what I was going to say. But anyway, what I'm trying to hint at is that it's possible for people who are not rabbinic status right from the beginning to approach with a certain approximation, albeit, but at an unbelievable level. And therefore we find, that's right, the Sikh of the Friedricher Rebbe, that's what I mentioned. That it's written and brought down in Sforim that on Erev Shabbos you should catch a sleep on Erev Shabbos. And there's actually a whole biyah, apart from freshening yourself to have the koyas to receive Shabbos in the right way, but it's a inyan of what's called Domitra Dazor, the sleeping of certain great spheres, Lamaila and Olam HaTzilas, preparing also for the Gila that's going to be for Shabbos. But Ein Kanamah, I can't go into all that right now. But anyway, there's Mitzadat, there's a inyan to take a dremel at least, or a schleffel on Erev Shabbos. So it's written that the Alter Rebbe on Erev Shabbos, after Chatzos Hayom, even though he had tefillin on, he was wearing tefillin, he would dremel the Alter Rebbe, yeah. Had he heard, he would be mitnamnim, to use the expression in Hebrew. He would sort of, he would drop asleep. Even to the point that he was mitzvah, the fact that he had on his tefillin, you're not allowed to sleep in tefillin. So he was disturbed by the fact that he was making a shiloh for himself in that regard. However, that's what happened. And it's also brought to get to Reb Hillel that at a certain point on Shabbos, Erev Shabbos in the afternoon, he would go and lay down, Chabad Tsfat, albeit only for a short while, but he would actually lay down and sleep. So the Fidiger Rebbe said, what's the difference between the Alter Rebbe and Reb Hillel? What's the difference? He said the Alter Rebbe, that he was Dugma Shomaila, and everything he did was like it is in the Olam Asaliyanim. Therefore, he didn't lay down to sleep. It just, in Yiddish, an expression, es hat sich geschlafen. It just slept from itself. In other words, at Momaila, they made him sleep. He was Bedugma Shomaila. Hashem, Reb Hillel went and lay down. He deliberately put him down. He was going according to that, he knew, but it wasn't Ayin Shodugma Shomaila. However, the very fact that in that Sikha, the Rebbe mentions the Alter Rebbe and Reb Hillel sort of more or less in the same conversation, that indicates that he reached a very tremendous level, Reb Hillel. And like they say, that his body, he had trained his body in such a way that it would do automatically certain things, beneged to Torah mitzvahs, but there are certain stories connected with that, but I can't really get involved in here. I just simply don't have the courage right now. But I want to tell another story, which I think is very important. And it gives us what is the greatness of Reb Hillel. And that is that it's well known that apart from his many greatnesses, Reb Hillel also had the greatness that he was miskarib to Lubavitch from Chsidei Poem. In other words, he wasn't born into Chsidei Lubavitch. He was a Chassid of Motel Chernobyl in his young years, and he became miskarib to Lubavitch. And there's a whole series of fascinating stories connected with all that. How Motel Chernobyl didn't want to let him go because he knew what a power he was, and he wanted to keep him. It was his chassid. He didn't want to let it go, even though he was on very good terms with the Alter Rebbe, with especially the Middle Rebbe. And it was a whole amazing story. Eventually, Reb Hillel came over to Lubavitch. So he had the greatness of somebody who hadn't learned the whole derech of the Alter Rebbe necessarily from his education and what made him a great man. And yet, nonetheless, he realized the greatness of the derech of Chochmah Bina V'das as it's revealed by the Alter Rebbe, to the point that he was prepared to leave everything completely behind. And that's what happened. He came over to Lubavitch. And so he came over, or he formed the decision that he would like to actually move into Lubavitch at a time that the Alter Rebbe was still alive. And Reb Hillel was Marik Yamim. He passed away when in those days was considered a very, very ripe old age. He got into his 90s, Reb Hillel, yeah. So he could have seen the Alter Rebbe, but he didn't. And he lived through the whole leadership of the Middle Rebbe, and then he lived quite a number of years into the Rebbe-ship of the Rebbe Tzemach. As well known, he was very close with the Rebbe Tzemach. Like we said before, the famous quip that Tzemach said he has 2.5 Hasidim. However, at the time that Reb Hillel was being discovered, he very much wanted to meet the Alter Rebbe. And he tried on a number of occasions, and each time something happened, very rare and very unusual, min hashamayim, and it didn't work out. He just didn't, something prevented him meeting the Alter Rebbe. And Lamaisa, he didn't see the Alter Rebbe actually personally, and his real intimate connection with the Nasiim of Chabad was with the Middle Rebbe, and then later with the Tzom Tzedek. So they tell a story which goes like this, that Reb Hillel said that he's going to take definite action, and he's going to meet up with the Alter Rebbe, or at least see him, and maybe exchange a few words with him, in order to, because he was still at the point where he was still moving over, you know, and he wanted to be convinced that he was doing the right thing. You know, he wanted to actually meet the Rebbe, the Alter Rebbe, and hear from him, and see, you know, that this was everything he'd been told. So he missed the Alter Rebbe, I think. So he decided, he heard that the Alter Rebbe was going from where he was in Liadi, he was going to a meeting, a big Rabbonim. But there was a Vidah, a certain Rabbonim, but again to a certain Indian, that the Alter Rebbe had agreed to take part in this meeting. So in order to get to that meeting, the Alter Rebbe had to stop at a certain point where Reb Hillel was very close to that point at that time. And the Alter Rebbe was going to have a break in the journey at this place, and he was going to meet up with some of the important Hasidim and Rabbonim in that area, and give over a Devat Torah for them, and then he would move on further. So Reb Hillel said, even though he's not invited to that meeting and that Devat Torah, but what he's going to do, he's going to be there. And he will see the Alter Rebbe, and he will stop him for a minute, and he'll talk with him. You follow? That was the plan. So he came early, before all the other Rabbonim and Chassidim had arrived, and he sat down at the table on a chair. He thought, well, this is the best thing when the Alter Rebbe comes in. I'll see him. So in the meantime, Reb Hillel had prepared a kasha, and he got a question that he wanted to ask the Alter Rebbe, and he chose a Masechta in Shas that people don't learn very much, that Masechta. That's Masechta Erechim. He chose it, and he chose a kasha in a certain passage in Masechta Erechim. And he said, if the Alter Rebbe will know the teretz of that kasha, and he explained to him that sugya, then that'll be a sign that he's great like they claim he is. You follow? And that'll be like the last thing which will swing his move from Chernobyl to the Beit. So here he is, he's sitting at the table, and he prepared in his mind, and he made very clear the kasha. He's going to ask the Alter Rebbe. So everything's fine. And he's sitting, he's looking at the sefer, and all of a sudden he gets tremendously, for some funny reason, he gets tremendously weary. He can't figure, you know. So he begins fighting with all his powers, because all of a sudden he wants, you know, to have a drummer, you know. And so what can he do? He sits for another short period of time, and the inexplicable weariness just takes him over, and to the point that, you know, his head fell down on his chest, and he mamish began to have a drama, you know, have a shlok, and in the end it got so heavy that he rolled off the chair and he rolled under the table. Follow? In the meantime, in comes the Alter Rebbe, from the coach, and he's accompanied with a whole, group of Chassidim, great figures that are accompanying him, and they all sit down, and all of a sudden come in all the Chassidim and the Rabbanim in that area, and they begin the meeting, and the Alter Rebbe begins discussing with them and then he starts saying a Torah, like a minor, a brief minor. And here's Reb Hillel under the table, he rolled mamish off his chair under the table. So Mitamol, Reb Hillel wakes up, and all of a sudden he realizes that he's on the floor, and he sees only legs with boots, all around him. And then he sees a very important pair of boots, and he hears above those boots, he hears a very authoritative and tremendous sounding and resounding voice. So he realized that must be the Alter Rebbe. And he tries some way or another to drag himself up, but he just can't. He can't get off the floor. And he can't understand what on earth is happening, but he just can't get up. So the next thing is, you hear what he heard. He heard the Alter Rebbe. He heard him, but he didn't see him. All of a sudden, the Alter Rebbe said, after he'd finished saying the Maimon, the Alter Rebbe said in Yiddish, he said, "Esador ayim gemah was sort of kasher in Masechta Erechim." That's what the Alter Rebbe said. He said, "There's a ayim gemah, but he's got a kasher in Masechta Erechim." That's what he heard above the two very important-looking boots. That's what he heard the voice saying. And he said, however, he has to know that if he really wants to understand the kasher in Masechta Erechim, that first of all, he has to put himself into the platform of Erechim. In other words, he's got to assess himself. Instead of learning how you assess other people, he's got to realize that he's got to assess himself. And if he will assess himself, then he might have some way of understanding the kasher in the Gemara. That's what the Alter Rebbe said. And then all of a sudden, Reb Hillel was just thunderstruck, and he heard that statement, and he sort of fainted. This time he didn't just fall asleep, but he fainted. And then all of a sudden he heard things starting to move. So he came out of the faint, and all of a sudden he sees the Alter Rebbe's boots get up and they move. And all the people that were with the Alter Rebbe, all their boots, they all moved at a big speed, because the Alter Rebbe was very zariz, and he was in a big time schedule. He has to get somewhere. So this time he comes out of the fainting, and he makes a effort, and he drags himself from under the table, and he sees everybody's gone. So he chases out into the street, and all he sees is the coach carrying the Alter Rebbe going down the street. Yeah. So it's I heard from the Rebbe. The Rebbe once mentioned this story in one of the Sikhs. I heard from the Rebbe, but the Rebbe said that what did that whole thing, how did that have an effect on Reb Hillel? That we have to say that that was like a meeting. He didn't actually meet the Alter Rebbe, but it's indicative he didn't really need to, because from those few words he heard everything that he could have been recovered from the Alter Rebbe. He heard. And so the Rebbe said that up to that moment, Reb Hillel was what we call a maskil. In other words, he was a Peil Shel, but it was all brain, it was all brain power. And he was unbelievable knowledge, and it was all moichin, When he heard that you have to put yourself on the platform of value, see what your own value is, and you have to first of all find out your own value, then he changed from being a maskil into a oivet. That's what the Rebbe said. The Rebbe said he changed from being a maskil into an oivet, and from then on Reb Hillel was famous. He was not only just a great mind, but he was a tremendous worker on himself, to the point that he reached amazing levels in working on himself. And so they once said to him, why do you take on yourself all these things, you can't hardly move without a hidur or a diktuk or without something. Calm down. Even big people said to him, calm down, take it easy, Don't have to have somebody come. So Rabbi said the whole reason why I take on myself another chumrah, he says, in order to hear clearly what Chassidus is telling me. And he said, the more chumras I have on my body, the more I understand of what Chassidus. So he said it's due to all the difficulties and the chumras to understand one word in Chassidus, meaning that he became a worker on himself. That's how he understood Chassidus. Yeah. And so the Rebbe said that change took place from the boots and the voice of the Alter Rebbe. So I thought that was a rather illustrative story. And it indicates the great honesty of Rebbe and his ability to be makabel. Even despite his greatness, he was makabel the penimias, changing.
The Alter Rebbe was prophetic about his understanding of the right.
Yeah. And you see the Ruach HaKodesh of the Alter Rebbe. The Alter Rebbe knew what was happening with him, even though he didn't actually see him eye to eye. But the Alter Rebbe knew what was happening. And remember, that's the Indian of Rebbe, and that's the story all the way through. And I'll just finish with one brief little story. That so great was Reb Hill in the latter years of his life, he wasn't a Rav in Parich, because originally the Tzemach Tzedek told him, that's why it's called Reb Hill Parich. He's an emerson for Kherson. That's an area in Russia, further the other way, east or west. I'm not into my geography very much, but Parich was a town. And he was then made a Rav in Babritsk. And Babritsk was a very big Jewish town, very big town. He was the Rav in Babritsk towards it. And there was a simple year that he lived in the city of Babritsk, and he was a partial year, and he believed in giving cover to Rabbanim and helping them. He once did Reb Hillel a favor. He did Reb Hillel a tremendous service, a favor. So Reb Hillel said to him that you'll be together with me after Me'ah V'Esher. We'll be together. So that's it. Later, when Reb Hillel passed away, over in his home area in Kherson, they made a big sort of oil for him. They made like a building with what they call an oil. Okay. So what happened is that years after that, all of a sudden there shows up in Chevra Kadisha a young, relatively young man, and he said his father, he lived alone with his father's passed away, and he doesn't have a great deal of money, but maybe they can give him a modest, burial place. So they said, okay, we'll look after it. And he said, immediately, I want my father buried straight away. So it was a tremendously snowy and windy day in the middle of the winter. Tremendous snow, blowing. You couldn't stand straight because of the wind and the snow. So they carried the niftal out, and they start digging it, and they just can't because of the snow. So then all of a sudden, this is in Reb Hillel's general graveyard. All of a sudden somebody said, you see over there where Reb Hillel's oil is behind there, the wind doesn't get. The wind hits that side of the oil, but over there it doesn't get. So we won't mention to anybody, we're not taking the right price on it, but we'll go over there and we'll dig a grave right alongside Reb Hillel's oil, and we'll bury the guy there, and won't tell anybody about it. And it'll be the covered amazing, be buried on the day that he wanted and everything. So that's what they did. They and they got in the shelter from the snow and the rain, and they buried this person there. So weeks later, the Balabas of the whole Chevra Kadisha, he heard about this. And he said, what's this, burying without my alongside the Rov's oil and the ganze dus? So he said, who is this man? So they make inquiries, and you know what happened? It turned out that he was the father of this young man, and he was that man that had helped Reb Hillel, and Reb Hillel had said, you'll be together with me. And so it happened in the most amazing way. Well, it couldn't have happened. Yeah, but it happened, and it just shows you the greatness of Reb Hillel. Okay, so I think with that,
yeah,
the Reb Hillel Parmas.
His family name is Hillel, Yishai Hillel. Yishai's family name is Hillel.
Oh, you're right.
יש איזה ניגן, הסך אlte ניגונים, לבביש, נמצא כמו רב הלל. סך ניגונים. לבביש אlte ניגונים, נמצא רב הלל.
Upon him, that's enough for the season. Good. The Chaim, guys. And be well, everybody.
חיים, סליחה, מולנו.
Chaim.
Is a rabbi from England, or is that
I couldn't. אני חשבתי שאתם שם.
טוב, אתה תשים את זה באופן שלך.
גם מורון.
חיים.
In the main there's a fan. If I catch you at night, and I bring the fan to